Hi, I'm Cheryl.
And I'm TK from Trekking with TK. And we're going to share with you the things that we experienced in our 3.5 days in Rome. The things that we loved, the things that surprised us, and most importantly, probably, is some of the mistakes that we made and how you can avoid them on your trip.
As we said, we took 3.5 days. Our itinerary can be made for 3 days for a little bit more packed trip, or 4 days for a little bit more leisurely trip. So this itinerary will work for you either way. So also stay till the end, and we have a few bonus tips that we're going to give you. And if you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe.
Since we were already traveling in Italy, we took the train from Florence to Rome. It was actually quite easy and a nice experience through the countryside. One mistake, though, that we made, or that I made, is that upon our arrival in Rome, I said that we should walk to the hotel, save a few bucks, whatever. And it was about a mile. Well, it was a terrible idea. It was super hot, cobblestone streets, uphill, and we had these giant suitcases that were filled with a lot of clothes that we found out after our time in Italy that we didn't need. So that takes us to one of our mistakes that we made, which was overpacking in giant suitcases.
And mistake number 2, walking with those giant suitcases. But speaking of the giant suitcases, also taking the trains in Italy, there is very limited space for very large suitcases. A lot of them are just over top for more carry-on size, maybe even the medium size could go up there. So you really want to be careful there. We did book all of our train travel through Trenitalia. We aimed to get the high-speed trains, and then we really looked at the different options depending on the prices. If we could upgrade to business class and it wasn't very much, then there was a little bit more room there because there was fewer people. And also we did book the version of a ticket that allowed you at least one change, which came in very handy for us because we did have to make our changes to our travel plan. So that's something to look out for as well, and just make sure to make those train tickets in advance.
Oh, and also try to arrive to the train station early because you want to make sure that if you do have a large suitcase that you can get that thing in the area that you want. And if you have traveling companions, you want to make sure you all sit together.
And also the train stations can be a little confusing. So I think it's good to get there and figure out where they're going to be putting, the signs up of which, what do you call it? That you
Terminal?
go to, terminal you're going to go to and which number, and so that you can be in the right area
Track.
to get
It's
moving.
the track.
Which track?
Yeah,
Correct.
which track, yeah.
Okay. So we stayed at the H10 Palazzo Gallo. It is a Spanish chain hotel, but they did a really nice job of incorporating all Roman aspects into the hotel, made it a little bit more boutique-y. It was a great location, just really steps from the Trevi fountain, close to the Colosseum. Most places were walking distance. We did one time take a taxi to the Vatican, but we walked back. It was a little bit of a distance, but you saw a lot of Rome, which was really nice. The H10 also has a very nice breakfast buffet. We opted against it. The time we went, it was 30 euros a person, and there were a lot of breakfast and coffee spots that we wanted to hit. So we didn't really miss it, but if you like that, it looked really nice. Another really nice thing about the H10 is that they had a rooftop bar, and we had beautiful sights, as you can see here. And we would usually cap off the evening at the rooftop bar, and it was a nice way to end the evening.
We arrived to our hotel mid-afternoon. We booked the Vatican at closing time with the Sistine Chapel through the tour guide. We are quite excited about this because we thought at closing time it would mean that it was pretty empty, but as you can see, it was very crowded, and the tour really raced us through the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel. It was super crowded, and it was a large group tour where we had to wear headphones, and if you weren't close enough to the guide, you would lose connection. Sadly, booking a large group tour was our mistake number 3. If you can afford it, I would go with a private or semi-private small group tour, and make sure you get skip-the-line access. We went to dinner near the Vatican after the tour. Unfortunately, we didn't do our research, and we picked a tourist trap. Walk a few blocks away and find a place where locals are eating, and you'll be sure to find a great restaurant. We also recommend staying at Vatican after night because you will get some beautiful views after sunset like you see here. And we also on our way home passed Castle San Angelo. We didn't end up visiting it, but it was quite a sight. And then we capped off the evening at the hotel rooftop.
Our first full day in Rome, we started the morning by leaving our hotel, the H10 Palazzo Gala, and headed off for coffee at the Cafe Antica Roma. It's very close to the Colosseum, which is what our tour was going to be. And we went in there and had coffee and a pastry. We were not disappointed. That place is amazing. Try to get there early because it's very busy, but it's worth it if you can pop in and out. We headed off to the Colosseum at that point for our tour from Live Tours, and it was called the Colosseum Arena and Gladiator Gate plus Roman Forum. Great tour. We booked the earliest time slot, which I think was around 8 a.m., which is no problem because, again, we stayed close to the hotel. It was great, small group, 6 people. We had an amazing guide. She was actually an anthropology student in Rome, studying specifically ancient Rome. So she knew so much about the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. Well worth it. Plus, when you get there early and you have a great guide, she knows the photo spots to head to before the crowds arrive. We continued on from there to the Roman Forum, which, is not as amazing or cool as the Colosseum, but what it does offer is a glimpse into how the Roman government worked, how daily life worked. Really interesting. And you can walk the grounds. Once our tour ended, we continued to walk the grounds and took pictures and read some of the captions on the signs. And again, well worth it since it's all right there. After that, we headed over to the Trevi Fountain. Again, that's close. We tossed our coins in the fountain and we drank from the public fountain water, which is supposed to bring you some sort of luck, which was very cool. Again, very crowded. You got to manage that. In fact, I think there's something new there now regarding tickets to the fountains, so you may want to look into that. We did not have to do that. It's a newer thing to manage the crowds, so keep that in mind. After that, we had Pizza in Trevi. That was the name of the restaurant, right by the Trevi Fountain. So again, kind of a touristy restaurant, which we try to avoid, but it was highly recommended because Cheryl has celiac, and they said that the pizza there that they can make gluten-free is wonderful, and it didn't disappoint. Very good. The pizza was great. My pizza was great. Wasn't gluten-free. Lots of options, but kind of crowded. You could throw your name in the hat and then walk around a little bit if it's busy and get in, but it was very good. Next, we went over to the Pantheon. The Pantheon, we did not have a tour for. The line was long. Didn't have any tickets, but you can buy the tickets same day online and get in line to enter, which really didn't take any time at all. Got in there, took a self-guided tour through Rick Steves. Now, Rick Steves is a very popular tourist guy who does many guides and recommendations, and we used a free audio guide. So basically, you walk through the door of the Pantheon and hit play. He narrates a story about the history of the Pantheon and a lot of the points of interest as you walk through it. I don't know how long it took exactly, maybe 30 minutes, but it just made the tour more interesting because of his explanation. So again, worth it. After that, we just walked around a little bit, saw a lot of churches. And a lot of these churches are pretty nondescript from the front. And then you walk through the door and they are amazing. So I recommend stopping into as many as you have the time for. They're free to enter. Just be respectful. Some of them might have a dress code, maybe mass or some services going on, which you wouldn't want to interrupt. But for the most part, if you walk through the front door, take a look at the church, that's fine. For dinner, we had dinner at the Poldo e Gianna Osteria, and it was great. It's a Michelin Guide recommended restaurant. They're known for a lot of things, including their carbonara, which I had, which was wonderful. Again, it's like all restaurants, whether they're touristy or not, they can be very busy, so try to plan ahead, make your reservations before you head there. If you know you're planning your schedule, you should make dinner reservations when you can. After that, I think we topped it off with maybe a drink on the rooftop like we did the previous night and went to bed because we had over 25,000 steps that day. So we got our steps in, that's for sure, and it was a wonderful day.
The next morning, we were lucky enough to be able to secure an early morning St. Peter's Basilica tour. We arrived at sunrise and were able to get some stunning photos of the Vatican City with very few tourists there. Our tour included access to the Basilica, access to climb the dome, and also access to visit the papal tombs where many popes are buried, including St. Peter and Pope Benedict XVI. We again booked a small group tour through Live Tours, and they only had 6 of us with skip the line access. We booked the earliest tour and got right in. By about 10 a.m., there were super long lines to get in. For the climb, we took an elevator up part of the way and then had another 320 steps to the top. It is a little tight and narrow, but if you are able to do it, I highly recommend it. Gave us stunning views of the Vatican City, as you can see here, as well as the top of the dome, which is all mosaic. After the dome climb, our tour guide, who was just amazing, spent about 2 hours with us touring the Basilica and the papal tombs. When our tour was over, we were able to spend more time exploring on our own. There is so much rich history, religion, and art that it is well worth the visit. There are masses every day in the Basilica, and there are also special occasion and holiday masses that are in the courtyard of Vatican City that you can get tickets and attend. So if you're there in the right time, it would definitely be worth doing. St. Peter's tomb and relics lie directly beneath the high altar in St. Peter's Basilica. After we left Vatican City, we walked to the Spanish Steps. They were a little less impressive than I expected, but worth seeing. We walked to the top, looked at the tourists and the sights from the top, walked back down. We saw wedding pictures being taken, and right from there, there's a lot of designer shopping that you can stop at. From there, we stopped and grabbed a takeaway sandwich. TK got the El Antico Venaya sandwich, and I found a gluten-free focaccia from Pandali. Both were extremely delicious. After refueling, we headed to the Monumento a Vittorio Emanuele and climbed to the top and saw the outstanding views there. We didn't pay for the top level, but the views were good enough from the level you could get for free. We then headed to the Piazza del Popolo. Don't miss the twin churches there, the Santa Maria de Acali and Santa Maria di Montesanto. Excuse the pronunciation. They look very similar from the outside, but they definitely have some difference, and both are worth checking out. Beautiful inside. We then headed to some side streets and stumbled upon a restaurant that was family owned, and were able to get a nice pizza and pasta and headed then to a rooftop. We capped off the evening at the rooftop of the Hotel Cesare, which also had some stunning views.
On our last full day in Rome, we started our morning at the La Casa del Cafe Tazza d'Oro coffee shop. It's a quaint, historical coffee bar that roasts their own beans on site. It's quite popular with tourists, so it can get crowded. So then we headed for our tour. That morning, we booked the Rome e-bike tour, Appian Way, Catacombs, and Roman Aqueducts. We did that through Viator. It was a great tour. There was only 4 of us, so you can imagine the attention that we received from the guide. The meeting spot was a good walk from our hotel, but it was nice to get a walking tour of the city on the way. Anytime we can do that, we try to take advantage of it. The bike tour started out with a little bit of riding through the city. With our first stop was the Circus Maximus. Very cool place. Still operates as a venue for concerts and things, but back in those days, it would host chariot rides and it could house up to 150,000 spectators. Pretty amazing. We got back on the bikes. The next stop was the Roman baths, but we saw the baths from afar and got an explanation from our guide. We then moved on to the Appian Way. The Appian Way is a road constructed over the course of time starting in 312 BC. Really, it's an amazing feat for that long ago. I will say, because it's over 2,000 years old, it can be a rough ride on the bike, so just be ready for that. Next stop for us was the Catacombs of San Callisto, an amazing place. Unfortunately, no photographs of that inside, not allowed. It was an amazing place. 20 kilometers of passageways. At one point, it held over 500,000 bodies, which are no longer there today, but pretty amazing to think about. We then moved on further out into this countryside, saw quite a bit of history on our way. It felt like we were hours from Rome, not just a bike ride away. And it was just super cool as we saw the aqueducts, again, constructed about the same time as the Appian Way, about 312 BC, carried water from the mountains all the way to Rome, the city center. In fact, a lot of those aqueducts still operate today. We had several other stops along the way and enjoyed ourselves. It may have been my favorite part was a visit by the goats, which you can see here. Rome completely exceeded our expectations. The history, the food, the churches, and the atmosphere were truly unforgettable. But if I could give you just a few pieces of advice, pack smart, book your tours early and small, and start your days as early as possible. And oh, by the way, don't be afraid to wander away from the touristy hotspots. That's where you'll find some of the most interesting areas. And we did promise a bonus, and we actually have 2 of them. One, there are so many gelato shops, it's hard to pick the best one. Our favorite was Gelateria La Romana. But if you're too far away, just look for the authentic gelato, which should be not so bright in color and not piled high in the container. It should be more in metal tins that are covered or flat. And here's our second bonus. If you comment Rome, we will send our 3-day itinerary, which includes links to many of the official websites and tours. And if you found this useful, please like and subscribe. Thanks for trekking with TK.